sensitivity is a short, sharp pain that people experience when they have something hot or cold getting to the nerve of the tooth. Dentists recommend Sensodyne to their patients. It's able to get inside the tooth and calm the nerve of the tooth down. And the proof's in the results. It works.
What do you see on the horizon? They say how you start your decade will determine how the rest of it will be. Imagine a decade full of opportunities, investment being one of them. Do you want a place to feed your mind, body and soul? A place to unwind every day, where you can get your health and fitness goals attained? A secure place for your family? A center for quality academic goals for your kids? Or perhaps a place to connect with your friends? Well, you can get all this and more at Amani Ridge, the place of peace, just 20 kilometers from the CBD. Call us today on 0790 300 300 or visit www.optivan.co.ke.
Ngapi?
Hiyo ni 65. Amfanye hivi, leta 55.
Bado ni expensive.
Kwani kuna ngapi?
Kuna 3K.
3K. 3K mimi wenyewe nimechukua na 4K.
So next time.
Check madam. Wacha nikufanyie best price just for you. Leta 3,000.
But I thought you said your cost was 4,000.
Acha hizo. Fanya hivi, leta pesa uchukue mali safi.
If only all things in life were as honest as 1 bob 5 MB. Enjoy the best data rate in Kenya. No bundle, no expiry, no minimum top-up. Now that's honest. Switch to Airtel, the smartphone network.
Kwani unaenda wapi? Kubai mkate. Utatununulia sweet. Sawa.
Nani amekuzia mkate?
Ni Kenyash.
Umetoa wapi sweet?
Amenipea.
Hebu tuende kwake saa hii.
Ni kama amefunga.
Ati ni kama amefunga. Tuende tukafungue hiyo duka yake. Kenyash, nini mkate gani unauzia mtoto wangu?
Demo chiti yako inakuwa
gani? Hapana, unajua na kujanga hapa na nunua selectors. Unajua hivyo? Na unajifanya hapa mpaka unampatia maswiti.
Huyu mtoto wako amekuja hapa kwa duka, akaniambia nimpatie mkate ya 48 bob. Tu bob za juu nimpatie sweet. Nikifanya nini?
Umenunua sweet hapa?
Selector, more slices na bei ni ile ile.
Rashes again? Kiss Kids diapers. Kiss Kids, no rashes. Kiss Kids, no rashes. Bye-bye rashes. Buy diapers. Choose Kiss Kids.
Prepare yourself for a new live bet experience. Top minute, boosted live bet odds. Mozart, make a decision.
Nairobi Center for International Arbitration (NCIA) resolves disputes of contractual transactions between individuals, SMEs and corporates where the contract has an ADR clause as an alternative to going to court. This offers a less conflictual pathway to all parties involved. NCIA has grown Kenya into a safe and friendly seat of arbitration for both domestic and international cases. NCIA is proud to invite investors, ADR stakeholders and the public to an ADR conference in Mombasa from 4th to 6th March 2020 with the theme Business Unusual Tracking ADR in Africa. For more information, visit www.ncia.or.ke.
Taking pride in constructing tomorrow's skylines. Adding strength to Kenya's landmarks. Presenting the power for specialized constructions. Cementing the nation's future. Simba Cement, the strength and pride of Kenya.
Now also produced in Nakuru and Mombasa.
With Lipa na M-Pesa, you get more and now you can win.
Jina yangu ni Joshua Mudhikilonzi. Sasa kwetu ni Kitui, mimi ni msimamizi wa shamba. Ilikuwa siku ya Jumanne ndio nilipigiwa simu. Kuangalia naona ni Safaricom. Akaniuliza unataka kushinda nini wewe? Nikamwambia nataka tractor. Sasa kaniambia hujashinda tractor lakini umeshinda nyumba. Yaani nimesikia raha ndani ya roho. Ni asante kwa Safaricom kwa venye wamenipatia nyumba. Sasa ndio naomba wenzangu walipe na M-Pesa. Watashinda kama mimi venye nimeshinda.
Lipa na M-Pesa and win now. Do more with Lipa na M-Pesa.
This is NTV.
When Collins Yegon, a 30-year-old living in Kisumu County, qualified as a certified public accountant years ago, he never imagined finding gainful employment would be so taxing a test as those exams he sat to get here. He asks, where is the money?
Neither did Lazarus Okinyi, a young Nairobi entrepreneur, think that his lifetime investment would crumble like a house of cards just 3 years later. Miles apart, these two echo the frustrations of many a Kenyan who seek a profitable answer to the question, just where is the money?
Now, the inflation rate is at its highest for the last 1 year, and commodity prices have hit the roof. The Nairobi Securities Exchange hit an all-time low in a record 16 years this week. We just paid another bailout loan to Kenya Airways after years on end of jaw-dropping results, and businesses are choking from the strong, strangling hand of the taxman. But where is the money?
That's the question. Tonight on Team Coverage Wednesday, we put faces to the economic struggles hounding Kenyans and their noble households. We challenge the government's understanding, or lack of it, of the prevailing economic positioning of the country. Hello and welcome to NTV Tonight, live from the Nation Center, this fourth day of the new month of March 2020. Also coming up in this news program.
Tonight, Kenyan government says Mandera attack was a violation of her sovereignty in stern warning to Somalia. Tensions between the neighbors now at boiling point.
That you have, an elite in Mogadishu that is making very narrow political calculations, very short term.
And the DCI-DPP fallout is full-blown.
We have investigated several cases, and there are those already which are in court, and there are those already we are anticipating that for the approval of the DPP.
KPA Graft case that is undoing the dynamic duo of the war on graft.
Plus, exorbitant commodity prices, high unemployment rates amid a torrid business environment. Just where is the money?
Imekuwa na uzito sana. Hatujui tuenda wapi. Pesa hakuna.
Wakati China inapigana na coronavirus, sisi tunapigana na unemployment.
Team Coverage Wednesday takes no prisoners tonight as we dissect the worrying economic landscape.
Many manufacturers are opting to leave the country for better alternatives in the region. Their biggest pain points being an unpredictable environment.
Also tonight, preparing for the coronavirus.
We need to sanitize people before they get into markets. We are asking the CECs responsible for water to ensure that those markets have water and soap.
Counties rush to upgrade health facilities and Mbagathi Hospital is ready.
Live from the Nation Center, this is NTV Tonight with Smriti, Vidyarthi and Mark Masai.
Welcome to the broadcast. Our sign language interpreter tonight is Flora Atieno. Let's get straight into it and bring out your team coverage warriors for the night. Now, Kevin Mutai joins us from the coastal city of Mombasa. Eunice Amolo, Alex Mwangi and Victor Kiprop are here in the capital city.
Also among us tonight is seasoned economist Bilo Kero. He will be speaking to our business editor Julian Zamboko to unpack The State of the Economy Force, Kenya's Master of Coin Cabinet Secretary for the National Treasury and Planning, Ukur Yatani, cancelled on us last minute. Your guess is as good as ours as to why.
All right, team coverage in just a moment. But first, to our top story. Tonight, the government is sending a strong warning to its Horn of Africa neighbor, Somalia, to, quote, cease and desist from the unwarranted provocations.
In a strongly worded press release, the government also says Somalia should stop using Kenya as a scapegoat and instead focus on managing its internal affairs. Ken Mijungu begins our broadcast.
The two-page document is explicit. Kenya needs a stop to the aggression from Somalia. State House describes it as short-time political expediency and says Somalia is out to create artificial fissures in its relations with Kenya. She urges Somalia to manage its internal affairs for the welfare of her people, such as defending terrorism and ensuring peace and stability in the region.
That you have an elite in Mogadishu that is making very narrow political calculations.
Somalia fired its first warning shots through Ambassador Abubakar Dahir Osman in New York on the 27th of February, saying that Kenya was interfering with its internal political affairs. It was followed by what Kenya describes as unwarranted attack on its territorial integrity and sovereignty by the federal government of Somalia on Monday. This was after Somalian soldiers caused a total lockdown in Mandera following harassment and destruction of property of Kenyans.
When you have a friendly regime in Mogadishu, you have friendly relations in northern Kenya. When you have a hostile regime in Mogadishu, you have a raw intensity, insurgency.
The State House statement concludes by saying there is a growing and persistent pattern of ill intent to use Kenya as scapegoat and a tool to justify challenges in Somalia for political reasons. Kenya says it will not accept to be used in that manner.
The other side has less institutional framework to resolve issues. The regional governments are armed. Oftentimes they are propped by foreign governments, whether from the Middle East or from the region.
Aside from this current aggression, Somalia is locked up in a maritime dispute with Kenya that is currently before the International Court of Justice. Ken Mijungu, NTV.
Now, the Director of Criminal Investigations, George Kinoti, has admitted that all is not well between his office and that of the Director of Public Prosecutions.
Kinoti told the nation that his officers feel frustrated that some of the cases they have diligently investigated fail to get prosecuted.
Now, the two offices are meant to be on the same side, fighting a common enemy, that is crime, but they seem to have turned their guns on one another.
And they clash openly in court regarding the corruption case against the Kenya Ports Authority Managing Director Daniel Manduku and his co-accused.
Now, NTV's Seth Olale delves deeper into the case that has threatened to end the bromance.
For more than 2 years, the Director of Public Prosecutions, Yusuf Haji, and Director General of Criminal Investigations, George Kinoti, appear to have a perfect working relationship. They held joint press briefings and traveled abroad together to attend to official duties.
To engage the relevant authorities.
This collaboration worked well, leading to arrest and prosecution of many suspects in court, until the KPA 2.7 billion shilling scandal came along. On Tuesday, Kenya Ports Authority Managing Director Daniel Manduku was arrested alongside Kenya Revenue Authority Commissioner of Customs and Border Control Kevin Lewis Safari for unlawfully recommending the gazettement of the Nairobi Inland Cargo Terminal as a KPA facility. And this is where it all started. On January 30th, 2019, Kenya Ports Authority sought the approval of National Treasury to transfer 2.5 billion shillings of the 3 billion shillings previously set aside for buying a piece of land at the Inland Container Depot in Nairobi, and use the additional 500 million shillings for the construction of a concrete Makongeni yard. KPA MD Daniel Manduku had already awarded and paid tenders for the Makongeni works to 9 contractors. The payments were split into smaller portions to avoid legal requirements of tendering for capital projects and to instead disguise the project as repair works. The 9 bills of quantities worth over $500 million shillings for the tenders were reportedly prepared by Anthony Muhanji, a senior works officer at the Kenya Ports Authority. It later emerged that Kenya Railways Corporation owns the land on which the Makongeni works was going on. Kenya Railways also stated that it did not enter into a lease agreement with KPA. Investigators termed the entire project as wastage of public resources. In yet another Nairobi inland cargo terminal scandal, detectives are investigating how senior officials from KPA and the Kenya Revenue Authority awarded tenders to 2 companies, Michelle Courts and Nairobi Inland Container Terminal NICT, for cargo storage and clearance at the inland depot. Several senior KRA and KPA staff, led by Managing Director Daniel Manduku, have already recorded statements at the Directorate of Criminal Investigations headquarters in regards to the Nairobi Inland Container Terminal scandal. However, the Director of Public Prosecution is yet to effect the arrest and prosecution of the suspects. Seth Olale, NTV, Nairobi.
Still on the Cold War between the DPP and the DCI since they took up office, Noordin Haji and George Kinoti showed themselves to be a dynamic duo. No office holder too high or connected for them to probe and prosecute on suspicion of graft.
So what is it about the Kenya Ports Authority case that has them on opposing sides? NTV's Olive Burrows examines the intrigues.
The public was on Tuesday treated to what could very well have passed for an episode of popular 90s court drama Vyoja Mahakamani. Simmering tensions between crime fighters Noordin Haji and George Kinoti bubbling over and resulting in a public display of disaffection, as the man who came between them stood by and watched the drama play out. But what is it about this man, Daniel Manduko, and the award of a tender to construct peripheral cargo storage facilities at the Kenya Ports Authority Inland Container Depot that made the Director of Criminal Investigations, George Kinoti, so bold as to try and force the hand of the Director of Public Prosecutions? And if the raring to go DCI is to be believed, the DPP reticent despite being in possession of the case file since November last year. It could be on account of the Russian doll nature of the case. You open up one doll to find another hidden within its shell, and then another, and another, and another. So it is with the companies involved in the tender. The Daily Nation reporting on the 9th of January 2020 that the complex web will make it harder to know the real individuals who have directly and indirectly benefited from the scandal. The 2 companies at the heart of the suspected scandal being Mitchell Courts Kenya Limited and Nairobi Inland Cargo Terminal. The Daily unmasking members of at least 4 prominent Kenyan families as the shareholders: the Moi family, the Ndegwas, the Nyachais, and the Saitoti family. It's worth taking note that Baringo Senator Gideon Moi has sued the Daily Nation, denying that he owns any part of Mitchell Courts Kenya Limited. The companies suspected of winning the tender despite not being among the 30 that bid, and the heavyweights behind the companies suspected of artificially manipulating the system to create a shortage that led to the need for facilities to store an additional 6,000 20-foot equivalent units of containers. The ICD requiring the additional storage after the Kenya Ports Authority with Manduko at the helm and the Kenya Revenue Authority with Kevin Safari as a Commissioner for Customs and Border Control declared that all inland cargo would be cleared in Nairobi, having been transported on the standard gauge railway. All of which worked out to the benefit of a few prominent members of society, it's suspected. Those reportedly registered as shareholders in the companies with shares in the 2 firms include billionaire banker James Philip Maina Ndegwa, who's a chairman of NIC Bank, which recently merged with the Commercial Bank of Africa, a bank associated with the first family, the Kenyattas. Margaret Wanjiko Saitoti is also listed as a shareholder in First Chartered Securities Limited, also chaired by Ndegwa, and through which they're linked to Mitchell Courts Kenya Limited. Other prominent persons listed as shareholders in the two companies which profited from congestion at the ICD are Moi's former finance minister Simeon Nyachai and Joshua Kulei, who also served the late President Moi in the capacity of personal secretary. Question is, will this prove to be the corruption case that cuts too close to home?
Tunajua vile mnapanga huko, slow down huko, sijui nini, ati ndio mizigo iingie. Anyway, tunaelewa. Tutasoma sisi tu kwa magazeti. Fulani ndio huyo tena ameenda, huyo siku nyingine fulani ndio huyo ameenda. Hakuna pahali ile mtu alikuwa anapiga simu, mambo yamekwenda, ni noma, nisaidie.
Olive Barrows, NTV.
Zilizimwa.
All right, and from that story to our team coverage topic of the day once again, the state of the economy. First out is our Coast reporter, Kevin Mutai.
Now, the February commodity prices and inflation numbers are out, but they don't look that good, do they, Kevin?
No, Mark and Smriti, that's not the case. They actually don't. According to a report by the Kenya-National Bureau of Statistics, the inflation rate has gone up to about 6.5%. That is considered to be in the last 1 year. And this has also been seen to have led to the increase in commodity and food prices, and in some instances, even tripled. And Kenyans are really feeling the heat. Just take a look at my story. We meet Saida Sharif in Kisimani, Mombasa County, going about her house chores. Like many Kenyans, she feels the heat of the rising cost of living. The situation is getting worse as compared to several years ago, she says.
Imekuwa na uzito sana. Hatujui tuenda wapi. Pesa hakuna, tunataka kusomesha watoto.
The have-not are struggling. For instance, every Sunday, hundreds of families walk 4 kilometers in search of free food here in Mombasa. Some cannot afford public transport. The needs of their children, among other basic needs.
Nashukuru sana Mombasa Cement because amesaidia kuna watu ambao wajiwezi, amesaidia walemavu, anawapa food. Because kuna watu ambao wanatoka mbali, hawajiwezi, wanategemea hapa.
According to Kenya National Bureau of Statistics, the inflation rate has been growing for the last 1 year to a high of 6.37% in February 2020. Food and non-alcoholic drinks prices covers the largest percentage of more than 10%. Clothing and footwear costs rose by 1.77%. Housing, water, gas and electricity went up by 3.02%. The cost of education rose by 1.80% and health by 0.85%.
Kenya now, we are going to where we will have the super rich and the super poor. Nobody is taking care of the middle class, and we are losing the middle class by the day because food, percentage of food ikienda up by 50%, and you stay for 5. My daughter works somewhere and she has not had a raise of salary for the last 3 years. While when I look, food has gone up by almost 75 to 100%. So we are likely to have a hardship.
Retail prices of food items have also ridiculously shot up in just a year. The price of a kilogram of tomatoes has gone up by 62%. A kg of maize flour now retails at 42% more than last year. A kilogram of beef has shot up by 3%. A litre of kerosene has gone up by 6% and petrol by more than 12% in the last year alone.
I thought that is what the leaders would have taken up with, but they are only concerned about the top 5 who will lead in 2022. Who is talking about Agenda 4? Everybody now is busy talking about BBI. BBI is not for Mwananchi. Agenda 4 was for the Mwananchi.
Many are now forced to dig deeper and stretch their budgets to make ends meet. The option of digital loans is fast becoming popular among Kenyans as the likes of Tala, Branch, KCB M-Pesa and M-Shwari cash in on the opportunity. But even that leaves many Kenyans exposed to debt distress. Kevin Mutai, NTV, Mombasa. The frustrations among Kenyans is evident, and more so because maybe millions of them have no employment or have either lost their jobs, and of course that is due to the high cost of living. And my colleague from the capital, Eunice Omolo, has more to do on the tough economic difficulties. Eunice, what do you have to tell us about that?
Yes, Kevin, statistics show that up to 40% of Kenyans are either unemployed or underemployed. Here is my report on how this government promised to create about 1.5 million jobs annually in 2013, but that has not materialized. Instead, there's a high dependency on the informal sector. Here's my report. Collins Yegon pushes his ice cream trolley in the streets of Kisumu City. A certified public accountant by training, Yegon has never found an opportunity to practice.
We have been looking for an employment only to find themselves in disguised employment. You understand the disguised employment. And whereby you employ yourself in the field which doesn't fit your professional qualification.
Miles away in Kakamega County, Chandarana Supermarket advertised for a new opening of over 100 slots in a new outlet they are opening. They had no idea a sea of humanity will show up.
Watu karibu 2,000 ama 3,000. Hatujui hiyo kazi hawa watu wote watapata.
These young people just want an opportunity to make a living in gainful employment, an opportunity that has proven elusive.
Wakati China inapigana na coronavirus, sisi tunapigana na unemployment.
More than 900,000 youths enter the job market annually. That number is higher than overall 840,600 informal sector jobs created in 2019.
Unfortunately, most of the graduates that you get from especially our public universities, they are not ready for the market. The reason being there's a disconnect between what the universities are training these youth in and what the industry expects them to be by the time they come out.
But even those within the job market are not safe, as retrenchments have become the order of the day. Collins Okweri Obura knows too well the pain of losing a job. With his injured leg, a step in life is as painful as the last.
Hata chenye neza kula peke yake ndio shida. Inabidi navumilia kwa nyumba. Maji ndio saa zingine nakunywa. Mguu na ndani inaniuma kupindukia. Hakuna vile nafanya, madawa zilinunuliwa zote ziliisha.
Okwiri now has to rely on an employed relative to meet his needs, painting a picture of the vicious cycle of dependency in the country. For those depended on, it is a double burden. Like Yego, many are now opting for self-employment, however small.
There's also the area of technical training, which the government has been addressing through the TVET colleges. I believe there are many opportunities when it comes to technical jobs that if we were to focus our more resources and more, we get our youth to get more interested in the technical jobs, what you call the blue collar jobs, we would actually be having a better situation than we have currently.
Corruption and unfavorable policy framework have been cited as some of major bottlenecks to growth of businesses and their capacity to create employment. As a result of the high cases of unemployment and underemployment, many opt for business to earn a living, but that is not safe in this economy, as Alex Mwangi has been finding out. Alex.
Thank you very much, Eunice. Now, the difficult business environment in the country is literally and adversely affecting the nation's future, the youth, who form the bulk of the population. From unpaid bills to high taxes, numerous permits and licenses to the low purchasing power, business in Kenya has become a tall order. Take a look.
25-year-old Lazarus Okinyi dropped out of Kenyatta University because his sponsors, who used to work at Nakumatt, could not afford to pay his fees due to the then giant retailer's financial troubles. Lazarus tried his hand in business with a partner, supplying goods worth 920,000 shillings to the State Department of Irrigation.
So nothing has been paid at all. So we've been waiting for payment since then, 2018.
After supplying the toners to the State Department of Irrigation, what is the message that the officials have been giving you about the delayed payment?
Okay, they keep on saying, we are looking into the issue, we are auditing, vitu kama hizo. Come tomorrow, we are almost paying you. Just wait for 2 weeks, we are paying. Okay, they keep on shifting goalposts. Yeah. So they speak of this today, tomorrow you come, this is another one, but there is no official communication.
Lazarus is just a microcosm of what many budding entrepreneurs face in hopes of making it in business. If it's not the uncooperative clients and low purchasing power, it is the burden of tax.
At the end of the month, we should have to pay county, which is 1,200, which is very expensive to us. Hesabu Jumapili nne tukitoa tumebakia na 26 na kuna service maintenance ya hiyo tuktuk.
And what with the endless permits and licenses needed to run even the smallest of businesses?
A trader who's moving goods from Nairobi, by the time they get to Kisumu, their profit is wiped out. Because they are paying tariffs in Nairobi, Nakuru, Kericho. By the time you get to Kisumu, you have no profit. Because you have paid fees everywhere.
The approval process for building permits is tedious. There are just about 35 or 39 approvals that one has to get through before you can put shovels on the ground.
As the country builds on manufacturing, regulatory and bureaucratic storms are chasing away potential investors.
Many manufacturers are opting to leave the country for better alternatives in the region. Their biggest pain points being an unpredictable environment and increasingly unplanned taxation.
Kenya touts itself as being a progressive haven for investment. Specifics on the ground, however, are murky.
What challenges did you experience in accessing the funds for the Youth Enterprise Development Fund?
They were asking that we give them a title deed or the logbook. So apparently I don't have any of them.
Lazarus now finds himself in the same circle as millions more, searching for employment. But then again,
I've worked. I've dropped a lot of the CVs, but I've not succeeded in getting one.
A low employment rate and businesses choking from the unfavorable environment can only mean low revenues for the government. Julius Amboko now delves into this headache. Over to you, Julians.
Right, Alex, thank you very much. That was a very insightful report. As you rightly mentioned, it has been a case of runaway expenditure and below revenue targets for the government. And what this has meant is that Kenya has been unable to cut its cloth according to its cloth year on year. And critical in this conversation is the fact that our tax base has been pretty narrow. And what this has meant is that even avenues of revenue seepage have been quite a challenge. I spoke to some analysts about this matter, and here is the report. Kenya continues to grapple with the seeming inability to live within its means, even as the growth of its tax revenue fails to keep pace with the relatively fast growth of the economy. Tax consultants say that this reflects the failure by the Kenya Revenue Authority to effectively widen the tax base.
The number of voters in this country is somewhere around 19 million versus the number of taxpayers, including companies, which stands at about 4 million or thereabouts. So clearly there is a problem in terms of expanding the tax base or the number of people who are paying taxes.
An efficient tax system which gets government the most revenue, given the kind of economy that they have, does two things. It makes the tax very simple and a moderate level. So it's moderate and it's very simple to adhere to.
In the financial year 2018-2019, the country mobilized 1.8 trillion shillings in ordinary revenue, 88% of which was drawn from taxes. The remaining 12% was drawn from non-tax revenue sources such as pension collections, levies, and fees. Analysts argue that the taxman still faces significant hurdles which could lead to a failure in the effort to rope in the informal sector into the tax net.
The reason we can predict that the turnover tax that has been introduced will not work well, if not ultimately fail, and we'll see that in a year, is because it requires so much administrative steps.
But with the country's expenditure fast rising and having crossed the 3 trillion shillings mark in the current financial year, the state is under pressure to engage in austerity measures. As a result, supplementary budgets have become the norm in Kenya's budget cycles.
I think one of the ways we need to be thinking about how we do budgets is to ask, we gave you 10 billion shillings, you're only able to spend 3 billion shillings, how about we give you 4 billion next year instead of 10 billion? And this other excess 6 billion, we allocate it elsewhere.
Then there is the challenge of tax cheats. Billionaire businessmen have been on the receiving end of the nascent bid by Kenya Revenue Authority to close the leakages, but the cases often terminate in court without much of results. The result is an estimated over 200 billion shillings not collected, further deepening the hole that the country is facing. The KRA has committed to tighten the noose on this challenge.
And if there was anyone who acted in the wrong manner, then we will take necessary action.
Now, what this has meant is that Kenya has been on a debt binge, year-on-year borrowing internationally and domestically as well. My colleague Victor Kiprop has been taking a look at this subject, and I hand you over to Kiprop.
Thank you, Julians. By 2016, Kenya had already breached its debt threshold when the country's debt rose over to 50% of the gross domestic product. As of December 2019, the country's total public debt stood at 6.04 trillion shillings, up from 5.2 trillion shillings a year before, shared almost equally between the domestic and external lenders. Well, that figure might keep growing as the country keeps borrowing, now that Parliament has approved the raising of Kenya's debt ceiling to an absolute figure of 9 trillion shillings. Given the country's population of about 47.5 million, every Kenyan now owes the country's lenders about 127,000 shillings. In the last financial year, we paid back to China, that's our biggest lender, 11.5 billion shillings. We also paid back another 6.3 billion shillings to Japan and yet another 6.3 billion shillings to France. Well, the debt train and appetite for loans has gathered pace in recent years. In December 2002, when President Daniel Moi left power, the debt stood at about 630 billion shillings. When President Mwai Kibaki left office in 2013, the total public debt stood at 1.88 trillion shillings. And at 6 trillion shillings currently, our debt has grown nearly 4 times under the current regime. Well, Treasury Outlook papers estimate that by the end of 2022, that national debt would have jumped to 7.1 trillion shillings. That will be a 281% growth from when the current regime took over power in April 2013. And money is so tight that the county governments don't seem to be paying their debts in time. My colleague Zacchaeus Masami has been looking at how the issue of pending bills has been affecting businesses. Zacchaeus?
Mzee Fred Mugotiza is a retired civil servant who ventured into the business of supplies. His company has been contracted by the government to supply foodstuff and firewood to Bungoma GK prison. His experience chasing payment has been a torturous one.
Watu wakiumia zaidi, watu wakiteseka zaidi, watu wakihangaika zaidi, watu wakienda mahospitali hata na kufariki, ndio inafanya ubabe wao wa kiserikali uonekane mkubwa. Hiyo ni hali ambapo inatakana watu pia warudi nyuma, warudi chini, tuwe na utu, na tuelewe jinsi mambo inaenda kwa nchi na watu walipwe kwa sababu hii ni haki yao.
Tulijenga, kazi inafanyika.
Several kilometers in Garissa County, these contractors are suffering a similar fate. Over 50 companies who were awarded various contracts by Garissa County government are yet to be paid.
Kuanzia 2013, ingine 2014, 2015, 2016, 2017. Hatujapata. Hii regime ya mbele hatujapatia sisi hiyo pesa. Ilikuwa mashule na hospitali. Regime ingine amekuja hapa, hatujapatwa.
Many businessmen had hoped that doing business with both the levels of government will help them. Instead, it has killed businesses and ruined livelihoods.
Some of the SMEs here, their properties have been auctioned. There is a lady who is not with us here at the moment, whose house is being auctioned by a certain bank because of lack of money.
Viga County kuna ile pesa ilichukuliwa kwa zile departments zenye zilikuwa zimetumia hiyo fedha. 450 million ikakuwa realized. Ikasemekana ilipe pending bills, but up to now hiyo pesa hatujaijua imeenda wapi, because hakuna any contractor hata mmoja ambaye ashalipwa.
A recent audit by the National Treasury shows that county governments owed some 89 billion shillings in pending bills as at June 2018, out of which about 52 billion were deemed payable. As of 10th February 2020, only about 32 billion shillings had been paid by counties, leaving an outstanding balance of about 20 billion shillings. Some 14 counties, including Garissa, Vihiga, Siaya, Nairobi, and Mandera, were sent back to the drawing board to re-evaluate their bills. The audit further showed that the national government owed contractors and suppliers some 58.2 billion shillings, out of which 43.2 billion are contested and being audited. Of the verified 15 billion shillings, the National Treasury says the government has paid 12.5 billion shillings and has committed to pay the deficit of 2.5 billion shillings by March. For this dejected businessman, that directive remains just an empty rhetoric if it's not followed through.
Well, that is the dim situation, and we spoke to Kenyans to get a sense of what they think about the state of the economy, especially at the microeconomic level.
Here's your say.
Right, we will bring your views in just a moment, and no doubt, Mark, most people will be feeling the same way. I doubt there's going to be a diverse range of views.
That's right. Whether you use the jargon of microeconomic, macroeconomic, the point is the money that we keep asking about, where it is nowhere close to the pockets of the Kenyan, or at least where we would want it to be. And we will be asking more questions on this, specifically Julian Samboko. He'll be talking to an economist.
That's right. He will be after this break. We'll hopefully bring your views to the fore in later in this broadcast. If not, we will try sample some of your views on Twitter. Do stay with us. We're taking a break. Julian Samboko will be back.
Wacha nikupigie, nataka kupata store bonus. Hello? Locust zimeenda? Na kuzeeka? Wacha. Hebu rudia. Ati? Na zinapikwaje? You can't be serious. 200% store bonus. Locust zinakulwaje? Bila chumvi Na kilo moja mnauzaje? Kokoteni hezi beba, kwa hivyo ni kuja pick up lini? Ongea na mama yuko hapa.
Tumemaliza story. Cheka storo kibao na 200% storo bonus. Piga simu zaidi, tuma SMS au nunua bundles ufikishe target yako leo. Isitoshe, pata 50% extra airtime unapo top up na kupiga *544*2* amount hash. Safaricom, for you.
Your multi-bet is on its way to hit the bullseye. Oh, you lose one match, but only in Mozart. Mozart Refund, lose one game, get your cash back. Make a decision. Terms and conditions apply.
Mombasa Port Sacco is an award-winning registered deposit-taking Sacco offering financial solutions to its members ranging from long-term development loans, agricultural and business loans, Chama loans and numerous savings products with high returns. Mombasa Port Sacco is open to all. Join the award-winning Sacco today and realize your dream.
To the out-of-framers, the turtleneckers, the fringe growers, you don't need to hide anymore. Try Dettol Even Tone. It cleans and helps to reduce the appearance of blemishes caused by oil, dirt and germs, giving your skin a healthy feel. Join the millions that have switched to Dettol Even Tone, now also in pomegranate fragrance, a healthier skin for an even better you. Brought to you by the Kenya Consortium of Medical and Health Professionals. Dettol, be 100% sure.
What would you like to become when you grow up?
As a refugee, you have to improve yourself first.
A doctor. Clap for the doctor.
The most important thing that have come to me in the camp is education.
We are focusing on empowering them with the knowledge.
When I don't school, how will I get a job? There are a lot of gaps where we actually need more funding so that the books, the school uniform, the ratio of students per classroom or the ratio of students per teacher can be improved.
It's 19.
Kuna mtu hapa yuaenda Italy.
Unaenda na?
Angalia kwa kioo.
But unajua vizuri sana mimi na tulikuwa tumeplan vacation together tuende Italy.
Now you know how it feels to be jealous.
So unaweza kuona.
Unataka mimi nikuje kwako?
Kuja.
Ever since Brayo Alanduku umekuwa desperate. Kila saa mara mko date, mara mnafanya nini? Unataka kurudi kamiti nini? Unajua kamiti ni home. Kama umerudia wizi, itabidi basi umeachana na sera.
Create a present.
Imeandikwa PB inamaanisha nini?
Right, and welcome back to NTV Tonight, where we are focusing on the state of the economy. My colleagues and myself have been covering a number of stories, including the cost of living, unemployment, public debt, public finance management by way of tax. And we sampled some views from the ground just to see what citizens think about the state of the economy. And take a listen.
Hatuwezi ficha, maisha yamekuwa ngumu sana. Tunatamani hata wakati enzi za zamani, wakati ambao babu zetu, kwa sababu maisha yalikuwa mzuri.
Hii kitu yenye mimi nataka kuuliza ya kwanza ni kuhusu hii BBI. Junasikia wanatembea huku na huku na huku na huku. Hiyo pesa yote wanatoa wapi? Wanatoa kwetu. Na hii BBI itusaidii. Kwangu mimi nisaidii.
Tuko na mabonyenye. Wanaiba pesa, wanapelekwa kotini, wanalipa mafine pale, wanaachwa. Swali ambapo nauliza government ni je, wakati mnaacha watu zile pesa ambapo walikuwa wameviiba, mmevipata? Sasa hii pesa imepotea kwa sababu siasa. Kila mtu anaona like siasa huenda ikaleta vitu fulani, tension. So mtu anasema acha niweke hii pesa yangu, yenyewe kikiumana nitumie kama fair. Sababu huwezi kununua kiti na kesho uende ukafukuzwa. So weke eneo pesa kwa mfuko, ukikimbizwa unakimbia nayo.
Tunafikiria serikali imeanza kuchukua pesa ikienda kulipa madeni ambayo walichukua kutoka nje. Tunaomba tuwasidishe madeni ili watu wetu wakaweza kupata nafasi pia ya access pesa.
Hali ya uchumi hairuhusu wananchi wote wakuwe na pesa. Kuna wale watu wachache ambao wamechukua advantage ya kukua karibu na uongozi na wameweka hela zote kwa mifuko zao.
Hii mchezo ya paka na panya ya kubomoa kila mahali eti unatengeneza town. Wanatengeneza town na watu wa town wanaumia.
Wamepora pesa ya wananchi, warudishe pesa. Hata president, mimi na si president. President atoe makucha. Akamate watu waliiba pesa.
Right, and those are the views from the ground on the stories we've been covering today. And before I get into my conversation with the former chairperson of the Senate Finance Committee, that is Honorable Bill Okero, just to paint a picture of the situation we are facing, there is a reality here where the economy we're told is growing at a record level of about 5-6%, but the reality on the ground is fundamentally different. People are scouting for employment opportunities which they cannot get. Cost of living is skyrocketing, the cost of doing business is rising, and at the grassroots, doing business across counties is being highlighted as a key challenge being faced by the private sector. So this is now a matter we want to take a deep dive into, and I'm joined, as I said, by Bill Okero. Welcome on set.
Thank you.
The question we're asking tonight is, where is the money? I'd like to know your thoughts.
Well, the money, one, has gone to the Chinese. We all know about it. It's a huge debt, largely to the Chinese. And secondly, it has gone to the government executive. They've stolen it. That's where the money has gone. It's either gone to the Chinese or it's gone to the pockets of the people who run the country. Mm-hmm. And so I agree. I mean, the last couple of years or 3 years or so, Kenyans have realized that the 5 to 6, in fact, our economy has been stagnant for the last 8-9 years at 5 to 6%. But in some of the earlier years, that 5 to 6% was growth in real areas, like agriculture or and sectors that really impact on the Kenyans. But this 5 to 6% in the last couple of years is what I normally call the elitist economy. This is the communication sector, the financial sector, or sectors which do not impact on the majority of Kenyans. So you get into a situation where then the government says the economy is growing on paper, yes, but in reality it's not. And I think many of the the reasons that have been given in the clips you have aired justify that, and I think we need to look at them.
Bill, you're pointing to a structural challenge that we have with the economy, but let me get to the subject of tax revenue. And on the one hand, Kenyans say we are overtaxed. On the other hand, KRA is not meeting its revenue targets. Why do we have this situation in our day-to-day?
It's about the government living beyond its means. That's it. You must cut your clothes to your size. If the government says we want 3 trillion and the economy can only raise 1.5 trillion, I mean, you can't blame the KRA or the revenue collection. It's about what target did you set for your expenditure. There is no attempt by this government to rationalize its expenditure in the last 7-8 years. In fact, they kept on increasing their government expenditures, not just in various state corporations and institutions that have been created, but I think largely on, what happened is that when government is not reducing in size, and every day you've seen people being recruited, the government has been really expanding in size and getting into some of those activities which don't necessarily result in revenue generation. For example, when this SGR story came up, the argument of the government is that we need to invest in this infrastructure so that in the long term we'll get higher revenue flows. That has not realized, that has not materialized. In fact, it's the opposite has happened in not only on the SGR but in many of these huge investments that have been made on infrastructure for the last 10 years. There hasn't been corresponding return, and I think there's a study that has been done by Parliamentary Budget Office that critically revealed that problem. So then what happens is that all that money you're putting into that infrastructure is largely borrowed.
Okay.
For example, last year our total development expenditure, national government, was 390 billion from ordinary revenue, the revenue that we generate. The rest, about 250 billion, was coming from loans. So what happens is that you borrow and spend. Budgets used to be very interesting when ministers or the government used to struggle to try and balance based on the fiscal policies, try and look at taxation, try and look for revenue generation and balance with expenditure. Now you don't. Now you set your expenditure, I want 3 trillion.
But Bill, if I could hold you then really in defense of the National Treasury, and not that I hold brief for them, supplementary budget one last year scaled down the revenue projections, tried to scale down expenditure. If you look at the budget policy statement which has just been tabled, there's a proposal 100 billion shillings slash on expenditure. Don't you think the fiscal consolidation agenda, there's an effort towards it?
No. Look at our budgeting system. The last 3 years, they do a budget, it gets approved by Parliament in June. 1 month later, in August, we're going for austerity. We have to review the budget. I think in 2018 we actually had 2 supplementary budgets, you remember. There is no time the last 3 years that this government has done a budget and it ran for 6 months. Immediately a month or 2 later, they're in crisis. You have to freeze expenditure, austerity measures, review the budget. I mean, they have done that, and so I'm not surprised that in the final budget policy statement that they gave, then they had there's an attempt to the reason is obvious. It's just that in the next 9 months, 1 trillion shillings in loans will mature. Last year, this is 2019-2020, the amount of interest alone for servicing the loans was 441 billion in the budget. So you are saying by December by next year, this government will need 1.5 trillion just to service loans. So you can understand why then they have to try and reduce development expenditure, and the impact on reduction of development expenditure would be adverse really on the economy, because and it's obvious, because when the economy is depressed, the last thing you should do is to try and contract the economy by trying to reduce demand, trying to reduce government expenditure, because government is the largest expenditure or stimulator in the economy. And so when you find then because of and this is created by these poor policies for the last 4 or 5 years of trying to borrow excessively. And so I think it's unfortunate, but they seem to be in a catch-22 because they can't. And the second thing is that if they were to borrow domestically, then it's also hurting the economy. Significantly. So this is why I understand that they have to try and reduce But even then, it's really very marginal. I mean, this government's expenditure is still 2.8 trillion.
Okay.
And our revenues estimated next year, for next financial year, is 1.8. Still, there's a gap of 1 trillion. I mean, we're still living way beyond our means.
Beyond our means.
Yeah.
And my final bit, just to get to the tail end, really, very briefly, when you look at the private sector, to its defense, the government will tell us, okay, fine, we got the rate cap repealed. We're seeing credit uptake by the private sector is ticking up. What's your assessment of the situation?
You see, the private sector has serious challenges. One of the, for example, when we look at our private sector, the largest aspect of it is really in the manufacturing. One of the challenges we've always had is the competitiveness in the market, regionally and so forth. And this challenge is because of the high cost of production. This government, I believe for the last 7 years, their main arguments have been that we'll reduce the cost of production. One, through lowering the cost of energy. It hasn't really happened significantly. I mean, manufacturing doesn't really. Number two, freight charges, for example. This whole SGR cost was about reducing freight charges. It hasn't really helped us. We're still paying more or less the same costs. And so this is why you find companies relocating. And this is why, third, the issue of taxation. Really, I mean, you don't, in a situation like this, try to tax more, because what happens then, the companies do not expand. Instead, everyone is trying to make, to keep their heads above the water, so they're cutting down expenditure. We're sending employees home. Companies are rationalizing, and then when the wage, that also affects the company. So I think private sector is really struggling, and that can be seen on the performance on even the blue chips. You see NSE this year, it's worst performance in so many years. But outside NSE, the situation is worse. In the informal sector, companies, small service companies that Kenyans have survived on, people are folding. Companies have been folding, and they're not being reported in large numbers, and so on, putting many people out. And the reason is you've taxed people. Those high taxes were not necessary. What the government needs to do, and this thing, the solution cannot come from anywhere else other than the government really rationalizing its expenditure.
Let me hold you on that and ask you my final question. The cost of living, inflation is now up to 6%. Some concluding thoughts from you.
Our inflation rate can be misleading. If it remains at 6%, 5-6%, but the reality is the one that affects the cost of living. For example, maize prices, according to the parliamentary budget, last 1 year, 2019, it went up by 30%. But you don't see it. When you look at the it went between 5 to 6%. You don't see it because it's distorted by the other the other parameters in the basket. Things like fuel prices not going up and sometimes going down, and other so and the rentals and the going down and so forth. So, but in reality, the food prices have been going up significantly, and that is the thing which really counts. And others, things like medical, things like the schools. Those are the things which really are hurting Kenyans most, and they've really been going up.
I see.
Yeah.
All right. And thank you very much. We've been having our conversation with the former chairperson of the Senate Finance Committee, Bill Okero, taking a deep dive into the issues we've been covering. We'll be taking a short break, but we'll be back with more, including the business news.
Sona moja imetengenezwa kwa njia spesheli ili kupambana na maumivu kwa haraka. Sona moja ina aspirin kama kiungo. Sona moja, kitulizo kamili. Maumivu yakizidi, pata ushauri wa daktari.
Welcome home to Amani Ridge, the place of peace. Your own urban sanctuary. A lifestyle waiting for you just 20 kilometers from the CBD. A place to unwind and get your health and fitness goals attained. A secure place for your family. A place for your children to have fun. A place to enjoy a sundowner. Success just doesn't happen. You have to make it happen. Make the impossible possible. Invest in Amani Ridge, the place of peace. Luxury you can afford. Call us today on 0790 300 300 or visit www.optivan.co.ke.
Sensitivity is a short, sharp pain that people experience when they have something hot or cold getting to the nerve of the tooth, causing that discomfort. If the sensitivity is left alone, it may get worse. Dentists recommend Sensodyne to their patients. It's able to get inside the tooth and calm the nerve of the tooth down, and the proof's in the results. It works.
Heaviness and a burning inside, it could be heartburn.
Indigestion and heartburn? Eno gets to work in 6 seconds and works on the 6 symptoms of heartburn so you can keep living life non-stop. Eno, fight heartburn and indigestion fast. Your multi-bet is only trying to hit the bullseye. Oh, you lose one match, but only in Mozart. Mozart Refund, lose one game, get your cash back. Make a decision. Terms and conditions apply.
It is time to get down to business. Welcome, I am Julian Amboko. The National Assembly Budget Committee now wants the National Treasury to resubmit the macroeconomic and fiscal framework document to the August House with clearer details on the country's debt position. According to the committee's recommendations on the budget policy statement dated March 3, 2020, the members want the National Treasury to provide greater detail on the country's concessional, semi-concessional and the commercial debt, as well as the borrowing strategy for the financial year 2020-2021. MPs further want the National Treasury to indicate the specific projects whose undertaking is to be financed with the borrowed funds. The business environment is taking a hit from the spread of the COVID-19 virus across the globe, with the travel bookings having dipped by 6% between January and February 2020 and by 10% between February and March. This is according to the Kenya Association of Travel Agents, which says the decline is expected to increase in the coming weeks as the number of COVID-19 infections increase globally. This comes even as the Kenya Private Sector Alliance has initiated a survey to estimate the impact the virus is having on Kenya's business environment.
We are expecting this number to continue to increase in short term as travel restrictions come in to effect to key markets this nation, as witnessed in China, South Korea, Iran, Saudi Arabia and Italy. Governments, corporates, NGO and traders and travelers in general are currently reconsidering non-essential travel globally.
A day after it emerged that the Central Bank of Kenya would be mopping up dollars from the market over the next 4 months, the shilling slid to its lowest point in 3 months. The shilling exchanged at an average of 102.38 units to the dollar on Wednesday, down from 101.37 on Tuesday, and the first time in 2020 it has breached the 102 mark. In a letter dated March 2, 2020, addressed to the chief executive officers of all commercial banks, the CBK indicated that it will be purchasing up to $100 million monthly in a bid to strengthen its preparedness for volatility. The last time the shilling was at 102 was on December 4, 2019. The government is set to establish 6 agro-processing hubs across the country to drive value addition and boost producers' income. The Agriculture Ministry says this move will enhance the country's agricultural competitiveness and generate more revenue in the sector. This project will see the involvement of county governments and the private sector to ensure the implementation of transformative agribusiness initiatives across the country. Current data from the Ministry of Agriculture reveals that agro-processing accounts for 3.2% of the gross domestic product, but only approximately 16% of Kenya's raw agricultural produce is processed. The agro-processing units will be developed using a one-stop shop rapid public-private partnership process for local and export markets.
Yes. You have something for us here?
Yes, we have some.
That's great.
Will I finish all this tea? I'll take to the office.
Yeah, thank you.
From us and many other countries coming to borrow.
And that takes us to the close of business. Up next is the financial report. That's it from the business desk. I hand you over back to Mark and Smriti.
New Blue Band Peanut Butter. Made with 100% pure peanuts and a good source of omega-6. Grow healthy and happy kids with New Blue Band Peanut Butter.
Discover the all-new Nivea Nourishing Cocoa Lotion, specially formulated with Nivea's Deep Moisture Serum and Africa's natural cocoa for 48-hour deep moisture. Glowing, radiant skin with nourishing cocoa lotion from Nivea. Get 48-hour deep moisture from the new range of Nivea body lotions.
Prepare yourself for a new live bet experience. Top minute boosted live bet odds. Mozart, make a decision.
Molfix breathable surface developed with airsoft technology is very soft and provides the best Molfix skincare.
I've found the best diaper for my baby's sensitive skin.
All babies deserve a high-quality diaper. You should also try Molfix.
Together stay free, whatever ends.
No, we can't stop. We wanna taste the feeling. Nothing can ever bring us down. Taste the feeling.
Welcome back. The Mbagathi Hospital treatment wing for testing of the new coronavirus patients becomes the first of such to be set up, and it will begin operations on Thursday.
Health Cabinet Secretary Mutahi Kagwe assures that there is enough protective gear to go around for health workers, despite numerous complaints that there is a shortage of the same across the country.
A countrywide training of health workers is currently underway, with county governments being tasked with the establishment of isolation and quarantine facilities.
NTV's Mel Miendo has that update.
The National Coronavirus Response Committee is down to business barely a week after it was inaugurated. It has established county emergency response teams which will work as subcommittees in implementing the country's preparedness plan.
We are cascading this effort downwards so that even the chiefs and sub-chiefs are part of the process that we are going to use. Even the police, themselves must be ready in any eventuality of how to isolate and to secure, certain areas.
The National Coronavirus Response Committee was in a closed-door discussion on Wednesday morning with 47 county executive committee members for health.
Counties have been given 2 days to make sure that their facilities are ready, and the national government is going to equip and provide medicine and the protective gear for these facilities at the county level.
Hygiene measures are being taken seriously in offices. Now there are hand sanitizers on every floor for employees to use. But that's not just in offices, but also in public places because of the movement to and fro by major crowds. And that is a requirement from the Health Ministry, as CS Mutai Kagwe explains.
We need to sanitize people before they get into markets. We are asking the CECs responsible for water to ensure that those markets have water and soap.
Kagwe further appealed to Kenyans against discriminating the Chinese while issuing a stern warning to those spreading false information about the new coronavirus outbreak.
It is a criminal offense, punishable by a jail term and a huge fine, to pass on information or to SMS information knowing that the information is false. So we need to be careful. We also have our people in China. We have over 3,000 Kenyans in China, not to mention the other Africans. What is going to happen if there is a response also on their part?
Mel Miendo, NTV.
Right, let us shift gears now. The sports news is coming up after this break with Warode Kiru. Stay with us.
Back from leave.
Swaddling needs a blanket and helps your baby feel safe and secure as she adjusts to life outside the womb. Spread your baby's blanket out on a flat surface. Place your baby face up on the blanket. Their head should sit above the folded corner. Straighten your baby's arms, then take the sides of the blanket and wrap it over their arms and chest. Loosely twist the bottom of the blanket and tuck it underneath your baby. At this point, your baby is fully covered.
Kiss Kids, no rashes. Bye-bye rashes. Buy diapers. Choose Kiss Kids.
Prepare yourself for a new live bet experience. Top minute, boosted live bet odds. Mozart, make a decision.
So we feel forever be real. Together stay free. No, we can't stop. We wanna taste the feeling. Nothing can ever bring us down. Taste the feeling.
What do you see on the horizon? They say how you start your decade will determine how the rest of it will be. Imagine a decade full of opportunities, investment being one of them. Do you want a place to feed your mind, body and soul? A place to unwind every day, where you can get your health and fitness goals attained. A secure place for your family. A center for quality academic goals for your kids. Or perhaps a place to connect with your friends. Well, you can get all this and more at Amani Ridge, the place of peace, just 20 kilometers from the CBD. Call us today on 0790 300 300 or visit www.optivan.co.ke.
Kuna mtu hapa yuenda Italy.
Unaenda na?
Angalia kwa kioo.
But unajua vizuri sana. Mimi na tulikuwa tumeplan vacation together tuende Italy.
Now you know how it feels to be jealous.
So naweza kuona.
Unataka mimi nikuje kwako?
Kuja.
Ever since Brayo Alanduku umekuwa desperate. Kila saa mara mko date, mara mnafanya nini? Unataka kurudi kamiti nini?
Unajua kamiti ni home.
Kama umerudia wizi, itabidi basi umeachana na sera.
Inflator present.
Imeandikwa PB inamaanisha nini?
NTV Sport in association with Mozart Bet. SMS NTV to 29990.
Let's play. Welcome to NTV Sport. I am Warothe Kiru, and we start with some good news from Turkey, where the Harambee Starlets have just beaten Northern Ireland 3-0, and they will next play Chile, who beat Ghana 2-0 in the Turkish Cup, which is going on in Turkey, and we're giving you updates of that tomorrow. But let's come back home, and Harambee Stars captain Victor Wanyama football journey has docked in Canada. Rugby ace Tony Onyango has died, and the threat of the coronavirus looms over the Tokyo Olympics. Details of this in our local sports roundup with Ian Mugo.
The national men's football team captain Victor Wanyama is set to become the third Kenyan to play in Major League Soccer. This follows his signing of a 3-year deal with Canadian MLS side Montreal Impact from English Premier League side Tottenham. KCB RFC and Kenya Simba's winger Tony Onyango passed away last evening at his home in Ngong. Onyango had earlier completed evening training with his KCB club, and the cause of his death is still unknown. The Kenya Simba's international has left behind a widow and one child. Athletics Kenya is focused on ensuring that the inaugural leg of the World Athletics Continental Tour set for May 2nd at Kasarani goes ahead without a hitch.
Diamond League.
To this end, AK has hired Belgium sports management company Golazo, who are the firm behind the Brussels Diamond League, to assist with the preparations.
If we can build this legacy over the years and strive for the very, very highest quality, maybe one day Kenya and Nairobi can have a Diamond League meeting and can be amongst of the Diamond League meets.
After 20 years, Safaricom has ceded full title sponsorship of the Safaricom Lewa Marathon, with Chinese electronics company Huawei coming on board as joint sponsors for the Lewa Marathon scheduled for the 27th of June. The marathon that aims to raise funds for conservation hopes to attract 1,400 runners. The threat of the coronavirus to sports continues to unfold, with the 2020 Summer Olympics in Tokyo under focus even as Tokyo puts on a brave face.
There is a task force in place since mid-February, and following the regular information from this task force, which consists of the IOC, the organizing committee, the host city of Tokyo, the government of Japan, and in particular the World Health Organization, we remain very confident with regard to the success of these Olympic Games Tokyo 2020.
Ian Mugo, NTV.
And may Tony Onyango rest in peace. Thank you so much for the memories. And Heaven RFC has a new player. Once the pride of a nation and the envy of the Sekafa region, the Mashemeji derby that pits arch rivals Gor Mahia and AFC Leopards has lost its shine. Ahead of the 89th Mashemeji derby set for this Sunday at the Kasarani Stadium, Brian Otwal takes a walk down memory lane.
A match between Kenya's most popular traditional clubs, AFC Leopards and Gor Mahia, is dubbed the Mashemeji Derby. The two teams first locked horns in 1968, and their rivalry has withstood the test heading into the 89th Mashemeji Derby meeting on Sunday. What has waned is the crowd support that has dwindled to a trickle. Celebrated golf writer Larry Ngala cut his teeth as a journalist in the 70s, and he has memories of covering the Mashemeji Derby.
Compared to what we used to see in the 1970s and the 80s, those two teams, first and foremost, they had a great following compared to what it is now. I remember, people used to, from Mombasa, Gor Mahia fans will actually take the whole train from Mombasa to Nairobi, come and watch the match in the evening. After the match, they go back.
The fan passion during the Mashemeji Derby varies in comparison to the different derbies in the region. For instance, the Dar Derby in Tanzanian League between Yanga and Simba attracted over 58,000 fans, with a gate collection amounting to 23.6 million shillings.
If you look at the two clubs, Simba and Yanga, the motivation that they give to the playing unit, you find that the gate collection goes to the players to divide among themselves as bonus for that specific game. So it really raises a lot of questions about our commitment in terms of marketing the Kenyan Premier League.
Crowd aside, in the recent past, the derby has become a one-sided affair. The last time Ingwe won the bragging rights over Kogalo was 4 years ago. Last season, Gor Mahia completed a double against Leopards and so far have a first leg 4-1 win over them. Since the two sides last met, Ingwe have changed coaches, and former captain Anthony Kimani is the boss at the Den.
There's less and less interest in Kenyan football, which is not only dangerous, but can lead Kenyan football standards to go down. So we expect much more zeal. We expect those decision makers to come on board and try and make it a more passionate football match, which is what Kenyan football needs to grow.
Even as it is currently a pale shadow of its former self, the derby has enjoyed high moments, with the last season's fixture supporting a human interest initiative that saw missing children linked back to their parents. Going into the match, Gor Mahia are top of the KPL table with 51 points, 11 better than 6th placed FC Leopards.
Now, the only way the derby can get back its shine is if you and me go to the stadium. So I hope that I'll get to see you at Kasarani on Sunday. Let's cross the borders, and in the FA Cup 5th round matches tonight, defending champions Manchester City travel to Sheffield. Wednesday, Tottenham Hotspur welcome Norwich City, and Leicester City host Birmingham. Last night, Liverpool's dream of achieving a treble was halted following a 2-0 away defeat to Chelsea. Meanwhile, Newcastle survived a scare to reach the quarterfinals for the first time in 14 years after edging out championship leaders West Brom 3-2 at the Hawthorns. This as Sheffield United overcame a stubborn Reading 2-1 at the Majeski Stadium.
He's got a bit to do, but he's got Pedro to the right. He plays him now. Not going to play him now. He's going to bang it into the back of the net.
And that's how we wrap it up on sports. Thank you so much for watching. I am Warote Kiru. Do have a lovely night.
NTV Sport in association with Mozart Bet. SMS NTV to 29990.
Mozart Refund, lose one game, get your cash back. Make a decision. Terms and conditions apply.
Some quick comment here from Kibet Benjamin to our coverage, team coverage tonight on where is the money and state of economy. You say, thank you NTV Kenya, that's fantastic journalism. Thank you for focusing on what's ailing the common wananchi. I'm in the right TV station, certainly are.
You most definitely are. Team coverage every Wednesday night right here on NTV. Thanks to you for watching, and thanks very much to the entire team involved. Our sign language interpreter tonight has been Flora Atieno. I'm Smriti Vidyarthi. Good night.
I'm Mark Masai. Good night.
This is NTV.
I help women find independence by training them in fish farming. It's tough on my back, joints, and can cause headaches. Panadol Extra relieves multiple types of pain. If symptoms persist, seek medical advice.
Over the last 1 year, we have invested heavily in the development of this platform, a platform that is going to change the way Kenyans move around and the way they do business. We are going to revolutionize Kenya's digital taxi hailing market by offering an exemplary rider experience, impacting lives and giving smiles. Prepare is going to present new business opportunities to partners and to drivers. We are going to help partners venture into the online taxi hailing market in a hassle-free way and help drivers get to own cars. And if there is a day we'll ever fall short of our expectations, we commit